I've got a new interview here from David Schwartz. This just happened, I think, yesterday. There's so much to go and talk about in this video. We're going to talk about the DEX on the XRP Ledger. He's going to compare it to Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're also going to talk about RLUSD. We're going to talk about regulations. We're going to talk about new use cases on the XRP Ledger. And towards the end of this interview, David Schwartz confirms something that I've been telling you a bunch on this channel. You want to stay tuned through this whole video if you can make it through. I know it's a little bit of a longer one, but let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Please make sure to like the video. It helps me to grow the channel, and that's what we are doing. Let's go.
I think most people know who David is, and obviously Ripple, but I thought we might start just you telling us a little bit about how you got into crypto, sort of early days of Ripple, for those of us that don't know.
Yeah, it was about early 2011, and I was kind of looking for something new to do, some kind of new challenge. The company that I'd been working for had kind of run into some interesting challenges of its own that not the kind of problems that I could help them with. And I was looking for something to do, and I found Bitcoin. And I immediately just, I drank the Kool-Aid like hard and quick. I was very impressed with the idea of a decentralized currency. I come from a libertarian background. I'd watched the internet revolution kind of democratize the flow of information. And the idea of a technology that could sort of democratize the flow of money seemed really interesting to me. And so I started working on Bitcoin until, Jed McCaleb, the guy who first had the idea that maybe proof of work wasn't Bitcoin's secret sauce, hired me to build what eventually became the XRP Ledger and Ripple.
Okay. And this particular era, this cycle, I know a lot of people throw that out in crypto, thinking about it in terms of technological advancements, innovations, different areas. Is there anything you can compare it to, this current era?
There's a combination of factors that are kind of unique in this cycle. I think one of them is there's a level of excitement about broad scale and mass adoption that I think we've had before, but it wasn't very rationally based on anything. It was just a sort of exuberance that I think you can connect that to more practical terms now. Like obstacles to institutional adoption are going down, one after the other. I think we're starting to see the growth of, mass scale DeFi. I think we just have a couple of little challenges left before we can really, deliver on the promises that the industry's been making.
And what's happening now with crypto and blockchain, is that charting us in a trajectory that's in line with sort of those early libertarian sort of utopian ideals that guided the early construction of the internet?
I hope so. I think so. I'm a little concerned because, we watch the internet sort of democratize the flow of information, and then over the past couple of years, we've seen sort of new gatekeepers emerge. I think the technology is sort of fundamentally sort of liberating, pro-democracy and pro-freedom, but I don't think that we can sort of sit back and say we don't have to worry about anything happening because it's inherently pro-liberating. One of the things that I've been pretty steadfast in saying is I'm fine with CBDCs as long as they compete on a level playing field. If you use a CBDC because it's better than your other options, that's great. And everything else will have to compete. Everything sets the floor for everything else. A lot of people come to crypto through centralized exchanges, and a lot of people, you've heard not your keys, not your crypto. They think centralized exchanges are evil, and I get that. But also, for people who use them, they are their best ramp. And it's on us to build better ones. If you don't like centralized exchanges, then build something better. But it's crazy to say to people, the thing that works best for you is bad and you shouldn't use it. What, should we use something worse? I think that as long as we fight for level playing fields and fair, as long as the governments aren't picking winners and losers or regulations aren't keeping some people out of the market, as long as we have a level playing field, it almost doesn't matter that much to me who wins. It would be great if it's the technologies that personally enrich me and that I've put my own effort into. But one of the best ways to lose is because someone is inspired by what you do, they do it better, and they make the world a better place. I really do believe that it's not about letting banks shave a couple of percentage points off. It's not about letting rich people find a tax efficient way to monetize their gains in crypto while still having exposure to potential 10x gains. It's about people who don't have access to quality financial products. It's about people who are trapped. Typically when you make payments, you're getting crappy exchange rates, particularly small retail payments. I think it was not a direct path I thought it was going to be 10 years ago. I think we've taken a long and meandering path, but I think we have a more credible claim to being able to reach those kinds of places than we've ever had before, and I think that's inspiring.
Okay. And then if you think about XRP Ledger and Ripple, how does it connect to that vision and those aspirations that you're talking about?
Well, I think what we're aiming for there is like the XRP Ledger is a decentralized public good. It's a layer 1 blockchain that nobody owns or controls. It's had a built-in DEX since day one. It was the first DEX in early 2012. It was built for payments, and Ripple sort of committed to payments in 2014. And I think at the time we kind of thought that like the path to solving payments for cryptocurrency was like a straight line. Let's just go after payments and well, it turns out that in order to be successful in the payments business, you need a lot of other things. And so the straight path to payments hasn't worked. As many of you I'm sure know, there was a trend where there was adoption of cryptocurrency for payments, and it seemed like every day a new company was accepting Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency for payments. And then that all went away. Like that completely just collapsed. And I think what we've learned is that like, I still believe that cryptocurrencies work for payments. I still think we're going to get there one day, but I think the path is indirect. I think we're going to need things like DeFi, we're going to need institutional adoption, and in particular, we're going to need on-ramps and off-ramps that really work. So for me...
You notice some people think that banks are massively using XRP already, but if you listen to what David Schwartz just said, he says we're not quite there yet, right? We need off and on ramps, right? We need a better system, right? We need more controls, right? We need more technology to really push this to the next step. I just wonder if you caught that too.
Me, if I hold funds on some blockchain, whether it's the XRP Ledger or another one, and I have to exchange it for Bitcoin or ETH or XRP, and then I need to send it to an exchange, and then I need to issue a limit order on the exchange, and then they'll wire me the money and I have it in 3 days, that's fine for me. Right? I also have a Robinhood account that I check every couple of weeks, or you know what I mean? Like I have money that I don't need to have completely accessible, but that's a very small percentage of the global population. What we need to get to is people who might need their money because their car breaks down, or might need their money to pay their grocery bill, and being able to have those kind of connections are critical to that kind of mass adoption. So I think we can't...
Think about this, guys. Sorry, I didn't mean to pause it there, but imagine people that live paycheck to paycheck. I know that some people that listen to my channel live paycheck to paycheck. For my entire life, I lived paycheck to paycheck, right? You had to go out, you had to work, you had to make money, you had to put food on the table, you had to pay your rent, you had to pay your mortgage, right? Imagine getting paid every day for the work that you do, right? That is what we're talking about here when you're moving the entire system to blockchain. Because payroll, once you start using cryptocurrency, XRP, payroll becomes way cheaper, okay? And you could do it every single day, right? It could be automated to do it from the hours that you work. Imagine just getting off, punching out, and boom, you got a payment for your work that day. That is what we're talking about here. And I think that could be extremely powerful, extremely powerful.
Go direct. We can't take the straight line path. That doesn't work. We had to detour through ICOs, but the market forex. We had meme coins, and yes, there real utility there? No. NFTs, some of it's real utility, a lot of it's not. But this is the path. The internet got a lot of traction for things like porn, which you have to grow. It's not always the direct path to the great and wonderful thing. Sometimes the path is a little meandering and detoured. But enterprise DeFi, I think, is the next big thing. And things like lending, which lending doesn't sound sexy because most blockchain lending is someone who made a whole bunch of money in Bitcoin or Ethereum or XRP and wants a tax efficient way to spend that and they still want the exposure because they think it might 2x or 10x again. That's not super exciting for me, but if you think about it, who's lending them the money? That could be people who want collateralized loans at a decent interest rate. That could be people whose alternative might be to hold their local currency, which is inflating, to nowhere. So I think that's kind of what's exciting to me, and I think that's what's going on. What's happening. The next phase is that institutional DeFi.
Okay, and a lot happened this year, specifically for you guys in XRP Ledger. What were some of the big highlights you think of this year?
Well, we launched an AMM. So for those of you who don't know how the XRP Ledger works, it's somewhere in between Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of its functionality. So Bitcoin has a very limited set of functions. You couldn't easily implement a DEX on Bitcoin directly. Ethereum has an incredibly broad range of functions. You can do anything on Ethereum. The XRP Ledger, and there's advantages and disadvantages to both approaches. One of the big disadvantages to the blockchain that can do everything is that you never know what's happening. Like, how many of you have approved a smart contract to access something on Ethereum or a similar blockchain, and you don't necessarily know what that smart contract is capable of doing because you can't personally audit it. So the XRP Ledger is in the middle. It's a fixed function blockchain. For example, it had a DEX since 2012, but that DEX is a core ledger function. There's one DEX. The XRP Ledger is a DEX. The XRP Ledger has NFT capability, but there's an NFT transactor. There's a issue mint NFT transaction. There's a transfer NFT transaction. Your wallet understands what those transactions do, and so you never have to worry about agreeing to something you don't understand. But on the flip side, it addresses 80% of the use cases, but that other 20% where you need something custom that's not supported, there's no way to do it. You can't write a smart contract to do it. The XRP Ledger doesn't support smart contracts. So what's happened in the past year is an expansion of functions specifically for DeFi and compliance. So for example, this decentralized ID function allows accounts to be tagged with a decentralized ID that can then be verified. It's extremely useful for small companies. Large companies can onboard customers and they're always going to want to do their own compliance. And that's never a problem for them. But if you're a small company doing your own compliance, having to store somebody else's passport or driver's license, it's a pure cost center for you and it's pure risk, and your customers don't want to give you those credentials because they don't trust you, and they shouldn't. And so decentralized ID provides a way to prove that your identity can be determined should it be necessary without revealing it. They're an automated market maker. The XRP Ledger has primarily used an order book as its form of liquidity and cross-currency trading. There's advantages and disadvantages to an order book compared to an AMM, but having both of them sort of gives you not only the advantages of both, but some new advantages that you wouldn't have. There's a lot of work on a lending protocol, which will initially just be traditional lending. So somebody will decide that somebody is creditworthy. They'll take on the responsibility of suing that person, if they don't make the payments they're supposed to make. But a fixed function transactor will divide the payments among the people who've loaned the money. And so those types of DeFi capabilities are, that capability is rapidly growing.
Really, really cool. What's interesting is you see how, Ripple the company, and of course, developers in the XRP Ledger understand that this new age that we're going into is, everyone's going to have their own, decentralized wallet, right? And that wallet will have probably your passport in it, maybe vaccines if those are necessary in the future for something else that could happen. It'll have, your medical history, your blood type. It'll have all of this information in one place, which will be easier for you to access and keep track of all of that. And that's how you could be a part of this new ecosystem and world, by having your unique ID that gets minted on the XRP Ledger or something else like that. But a lot of companies, right, are going to want to use these tools to better their offerings and services to their customers, right?
Just recently, XRP became the third largest cryptocurrency by market shares, or market capitalization, sorry. So what led to that specifically?
It's really hard to know. I would like to think that people realized how awesome the technology was as a technologist, but the technology was awesome a month ago, and we were still singing its praises to everybody who had listened. So I have to think that a primary factor is the change in the regulatory environment in the United States.
Absolutely.
But that's just, I would be stunned if that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But whether that's the direct cause, whether that's a trigger and there were other factors, pent-up demand, I don't know.
When you think about the new administration, the incoming administration in the U.S., how do you think that will impact Ripple's sort of targets, goals, or the use of XRP Ledger moving forward?
I'm extremely optimistic, not just for Ripple and the XRP Ledger, but for the entire cryptocurrency space in the United States. I travel internationally. I go to conferences. I talk to a lot of people in the United States and a lot of small, medium-sized projects, and it's always depressing to me when I have to tell them, stay away from the United States. If you want to be able to sleep at night, don't launch. You'll see projects that they say, oh, this project is not supported if you're in one of these three countries, and it's North Korea, Libya, and the United States. That's a hell of a list to be on. I'm excited for that to become, for the regulation in the United States to become rational and people to know what the regulation is. From the point of view of Ripple and the XRP, well, Ripple's been in litigation with the SEC, so I'm hoping, I think that was probably going to end this year, next year regardless, but I'm hoping that like a more rational administration will end some of that. Also, we've had to focus both our hiring and our customer acquisition and even some of our development overseas as a company. And that's not going to change. We're not going to dial that back. There's no reason to. That's been remarkably successful, and we still want to see that happen. But we've had to not do that in the United States. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to expand, particularly we have an institutional product called Ripple Payments that's a licensed payment product in the United States. And one of the obstacles has been sort of soft pressure. I'm sure you guys have heard stories about companies that have said they wanted to do something that connected with crypto or blockchain, like institutions, and government entities have come back and said, hey, like if you're doing that, then we're going to give you trouble in other places. So that's kind of been a headwind that we're hoping will go away, and I think that will benefit the entire space.
Remember, when the SEC sued Ripple, their business basically in the US kind of stopped. And so what they did was they said, instead of kind of giving up and throwing up their hands, they went out and they built partnerships almost on every single continent in the world. Probably every continent, right? They have partnerships all across Africa. They have partnerships in Australia, South America, all over Europe, right? Ripple understood how important it was. And this, I do believe that the SEC suing Ripple actually helped Ripple to become an even bigger company, right? Because think about it, if they would have just stayed in the US, they might not have focused on some of these other countries, and they might not have gotten some of these central bank digital currency partnerships, right? And even though the central bank digital currency partnerships that have been announced have been smaller countries, I think the ones that Ripple's holding back, right? They've only announced like 6 or 7 of them, but they're talking with over 20 of them. And so I'm thinking the bigger ones Ripple hasn't really announced yet are ones that could really shake up the industry and cause a lot of FOMO. And I think once those start to get announced, those pilots or those actual real use cases for central bank digital currency, for wholesale central bank digital currency, which wholesale means central bank to bank, retail CBDC is person to business. So I think wholesale central bank will come first, retail will come after. And what is it saying? Bob's your uncle? I don't know.
Just looking forward to a more level playing field. The administration had said things about Bitcoin and said things about ETH and then just kind of stopped talking. And it's just, nobody knew what the rules were. And so I'm hoping that we'll get some kind of predictability. And it's like, well, we'll comply with the rules if we know what they are. Yeah. The problem is when nobody can tell us what they are, and they're just like exercising this sort of extra legal soft pressure where they just tell companies, hey, you probably shouldn't do this without like any, not that it's illegal, just, that kind of pressure. And so I'm hoping that environment will get a lot better.
We spoke back in April about your upcoming stablecoin, and you guys, I think, were supposed to launch it by the end of this year. Where are you with the stablecoin, and when could we expect it to be launched?
I'm still hopeful that we'll launch by the end of the year. There's a lot of moving parts involved, and the big one is the stablecoin is launched through a New York State trust, and it's regulated by the New York State Department of Financial Services, and they are like the gold standard regulator for a stablecoin. I mean, I don't think you can do better. They're going over, all of our processes and, compliance and all of those things. And we just need to make sure that the annoying part for us is like we're getting close to the holidays and we have partners that want to hit the ground running. And so like if we launch the day before Christmas, a partner wants to monitor things on the launch day. So there's just all these moving parts to China. I'm very hopeful that it will happen this year. But unfortunately, once you start running into Christmas and then New Year's, people are gone. So,
Remember, New York Department of Financial Services is one of the key regulators in the United States. Also, the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, has also been working with Ripple and giving them proper licensing that they need. And also, Ripple has the green light in the European Union once MiCA passes for their RLUSD stablecoin. So the biggest regulators globally have given Ripple or are about to give Ripple the green light to launch the I would imagine this is going to be one of the most secure and open are stablecoins on the planet beside USDC. I think USDC does a great job. And who knows, maybe a year or two from now, Tether will be at like 1 billion, 2 billion market cap. I have no idea what's going to happen with Tether, guys. I do know competition is good, and you can't really get better than what you're seeing here with Ripple.
Really looking forward to having the launch headaches behind us, but we will get there.
But it's all a term of, or a question of ironing out these technical wrinkles.
Yeah, it's a matter of, it's mainly two things. So one of them is making sure that partners can launch in a coordinated way and that they don't run into trouble. And then it's just having the confidence that every T has been crossed and I has been dotted, and that maybe we didn't forget to dot the lowercase j's, or, it's one of those things where there's like a lot of weird moving parts. And I'll share a detail with you just because I think it's kind of funny. There's like a lot of weird failure scenarios that you might not think of. Like one failure scenario that like nobody had thought of until late in the process was like RLUSD launches, and there are people who like, I want to be one of the first people to have RLUSD, so I'll spend $3 for one RLUSD. And like, what if there's a shortage because the mint burn like might not be able to catch up, and the price might shoot up, and people might think that it's like an asset that they could speculate on, and they buy it like hoping, and obviously it's going to come back down from $3 to $1 as soon as like somebody mints enough of it. And is that a problem? Like we just get all these weird situations. But we'll get it right.
Okay.
Don't buy it at $3 because you want to be one of the. If you want to be one of the first people to have it, you want to buy one, fine. But don't think, oh my God, it's now this asset that's going to go up 10x. Or it's not. It's going to come down to $1 unless something's very badly broken.
Okay. I hate to ask you to repeat yourself, but when we were backstage, we had a really interesting conversation. I asked, everybody's thinking about celebrating sort of Bitcoin crossing 100,000, and I asked you sort of, do you think it's a narrative case or it's a fundamental case? And you gave me your argument of why or what could potentially be the fundamentals. Would you mind sharing that with the audience?
Yeah, I'm a person who genuinely believes that markets are almost always rational, and that as long as there's enough liquidity and there aren't barriers to access and there aren't like technical failures in the market, which there aren't in the Bitcoin market globally. Like globally, the Bitcoin market is liquid. If you have $1 billion, you can buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. If you hold $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, you can sell it. The market largely works. And I think that in an efficient market like that, prices have to be rational. If prices were too high, somebody would sell huge amounts. And I think what's happening is largely the demand is speculative. And the speculation is that Bitcoin will take over the world. Like if you think Bitcoin will take over the world, then it's going to be worth, 100 times what it is now. And the question is, what's the probability that Bitcoin is, like if you look at the future value of Bitcoin in that scenario, it's how much is Bitcoin worth if it takes over the world times what's the probability that Bitcoin takes over the world. The first number, how much it could be worth, is enormous, trillions of dollars. The second number is tiny. It's a very small, nobody believes there's a 10%, maybe some people do, but the market doesn't believe there's a 10% chance Bitcoin will take over the world. If you thought there was a 10% chance Bitcoin would be $1 million next year, you wouldn't sell it for, you wouldn't have sold it for $70,000 a month ago. Maybe you'd sell it for $100,000 now. So if that probability of Bitcoin taking over the world changes just a little bit, that should drive the price significantly. And I think it's possible that when you see these massive movements in price, the sort of the market's perceived probability of an enormous success scenario has gone up.
Okay. One quick question before we go. When you look at next year, are there any specific things you think we'll see in the crypto market that maybe not a lot of people are talking about, or things that maybe are being overlooked that you specifically expect to happen?
I think a big one is going to be better connectivity of crypto markets to traditional markets, both through enterprises that will be offering the same products that they offered in TradFi. They'll offer them in DeFi just as a way of expanding new markets. I think we'll see better connectivity for people who need to be able to access their money, and so we'll see broader access to DeFi. It's realistically more than a year away. I'm hopeful that we'll see real-world asset tokenization, things like tokenized securities, and then I'm hoping that we'll see entire DeFi ecosystems built around them. So if I hold tokenized U.S. Treasuries, can I use that as collateral? Can I issue a token that's backed by it? Like those types of rehypothecation scenarios, I think are going to, we see companies that are interested in launching tokens like on the XRP Ledger or on blockchains, and they just want to save money. Like they're paying $1.50 per they're issuing billions of dollars, but their profit margin is razor thin. They're just interested in saving some money. But I think what they're going to find is that they are selling these products to entire new customer bases because of the ability to use it in DeFi. Look what happened in stablecoins.
Did you just hear what he said there? He said that companies are coming to Ripple, right? And to David Schwartz to launch tokens on the XRP Ledger to help their profit margin for their companies, right? What have we been saying on this channel over and over again? That companies and corporations are going to come to Ripple to want to create their own coins on the XRP Ledger to save money when they move value. Boom, boom.
Like a stablecoin's $1. It's the most boring thing in the world. But you have these whole DeFi ecosystems that are enabled by this institutional injection of dollars. I think we're going to see that pattern repeat for tokenized real-world assets. Probably that will happen in the next year.
Cool. Thank you so much, David. That was excellent.
There you go, guys. Wow, a lot of really great information in there. I borrowed this from Bank XRP. Thank you, brother. What do you think is going to happen in 2025 with XRP? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know how many of you made it to the end, but if you did, I love you. Thank you.